just kind of trying to understand where you're coming from here. Why was this so helpful for you? I mean, didn't you not know that you were Filipino American growing up?
I knew I was Filipino American, but I didn't know that Filipino American or Asian American was a thing. Like, I didn't know that was a ethnic identity that I could identify with. So it was always like, am I Filipino or am I American?
Oh, is it like you didn't know that was a separate category?
Yeah,
you always had to
yeah.
like, it's either you were choose like a Filipino category or like American.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know that was a category that had its own struggles and its own identity. Because for me, it was always like, it's like I'm a mixture of Filipino and a mixture of American. But there's actually a category called Filipino American that I wasn't aware of, or in a category called Asian American that I wasn't aware of. And when people started talking about Asian American struggles, then I was like, oh, that sounds like what I go through. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So is it helpful only in the sense that there is a way to categorize what you were going through, or was it more helpful in the sense that you knew other people were going through the same thing?
I think the answer is both. So you said, what was the first one you said?
Like the first one was that there's finally like a category that I guess encapsulates what you're going through.
Yeah, I think,
or like your experience.
Yeah, because I think like when I was growing up, I only heard about Filipinos, and then I heard about Americans, but I didn't hear that category.
I see. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out like how this was so helpful, because I can't like right now I can't wrap my mind around like young Henrik, how this, I guess, idea or thought came to be so helpful for you as a Filipino American, like as a second generation.
Yeah, so I guess I give an example. Like at the Asian or the EPIC conference, this is an ethnic, or not ethnic, but this is a ministry that's for Asian Americans.
Yeah.
And that was my first time going to a conference where they were trying to address Asian American struggles. Like one of them was, and I don't necessarily relate to this, but one of them was the Asian Americans, they struggle with feeling like their parents have never told them that they love them. And then that was something that Asian Americans, that's something they talked about at the conference. And then it was like, I guess for me, like whenever I go to a conference, it has always been like an American conference. So they don't talk about that problem of Asian Americans. And they also talked about the identity struggle, being Asian and then being American. I think at that time, I didn't even know that I had that struggle until I was at that conference. And then when I was at the conference, they were talking about the struggle between identifying as Asian versus identifying as American. Then it made it more concrete that that's something that I was actually going through, but I didn't know that I was going through it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess in order to solve something, you got to know what's going on. So, like, how would this help new Filipino Americans growing up at church?
Yeah, because I think like the youth ministry, I think they don't know that they can have this feeling of not feeling at home with Filipinos and not feeling at home with Americans to some extent. I mean, of course, like if you're with your titos, you do feel at home, but there's also an extent where they make you feel sometimes that you don't necessarily understand their culture. So I think when you ask my youth kids if they go through the identity struggle, they would say no sometimes. When I was exposed to ethnic Asian American ministry topics like this, then I was it opened my eyes that I was going through this struggle.
I mean, I do think that having a place to belong is, even just that feeling of belonging is very important.